check, mic check. All right, round two, mic check, mic check. All right, for some reason the thumbnail I'm creating doesn't want to cooperate, so I don't want to sit around forever, so I guess we might as well just get started. We'll rock with the same thumbnail from the last stream, but it's what it is. Oh, one other thing. Oh my gosh, of course, like I always say, work decides to get busy as soon as GameStop likes to get active. But that's just the way she goes. So, thank you guys for joining me, whether you're watching this live or watching this back. Really, oh, didn't get to fix the camera yet, but here we are. Really appreciate you guys being here. As always, just talking GameStop, talking about things as I see it. Trying to get a quick stream in today. It's hectic the next couple weeks for me. I'm going to stream again tomorrow, but then next week, I don't know. We're going to have to see. It's just, again, the weekend is definitely busy for me, and yeah, just getting it all sorted out. Just like everyone else in their life, there's always a lot of things going on, but definitely plenty to talk about that we'll squeeze into this next hour here. Manuel, thanks for being here. Windfall, thanks for being here. Hello, hello. DRS GME, thanks for being here. Mr. Gypsy Fish, hi guys. I see what you did there. Thanks for being here. Wendy, thanks for being here. Silverback Jack, what up? Thanks for being here. Ryan Sung, good afternoon, my GME elitist. Ryan Sung, thanks for being here, man. Yeah, the GME elitist, that's what they call me. That's just what they say. Yeah, I don't even have my laptop, so I'm gonna have to be checking the chat on my phone. But just grind it out here. It's not always gonna be perfect. It's about consistency though. So I'll have that up right here. Yo, everyone, GameStop Tetron, Mike 11. Yes, sir. Patrick Squires, thanks for being here. Mic check, mic check. So, as you guys saw yesterday, the German market had a lot of activities, so that led into a lot of speculation of what today would look like. And obviously, in the blue here, this is after hours. GameStop announced their at-the-money share offering was complete. They were able to raise about approximately $933 million pre-fees, although Jeffries, who's basically helping them facilitate it, could charge them up to 1.5%. That only equates to like 15-ish million roughly. So gross proceeds is 933 million, but we'll get the exact number when the earnings report come out. And it occurred to me, I was like, today's earnings report, right? Or not today's earnings report, the earnings report we're about to get, we don't have a date yet. So when is that going to be? It seems like any day now it should be announced. Historically speaking, it's been, I think it was like the 9th last year. The 9th is a Saturday. I'm looking at my calendar over here. So maybe that week of the 10th through the 14th, something like that. And I'm also looking at my calendar and seeing I got a dentist appointment that week, so I got to keep that in mind. But anyways, after hours, you saw a big jump up, a little fall off, and then pretty much sideways. Then in between here, right, in between the blue and the orange, that's where the German market was trading because this is as of pre-market Tuesday. American markets were closed Monday due to the holiday. So Tuesday morning, here we are, a little drop off, a little run up, kind of then drop off in the morning, huge run up midday, kind of drops off and then holds steady, right? So overall, pretty much sideways since the announcement of the ATM completing. We did officially close the day. I have it over here. Let's see. Whoa, I never want the messages to pop up. We'll talk about Wu-Tang in a second because I saw that came up. We closed the day at 23.74, still up 25%, pretty significant move. The high of the day was 26.66. The low of the day is 21.15. 102 million shares traded, more than any single day last week, and not as much as the week prior, but still a pretty decent amount, again, relative to last week. And I always love this meme, and I found it somewhere, and I just think it's funny. So anytime GameStop has a big day, I tend to post it with like my little recap. And by the way, if you guys don't already, follow me at Tetron Invest on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it these days. Post updates on there, so you can definitely catch me there. And one thing to note real quick, I think I heard Richard Newton bring this up. Shout out to him. He's been doing a lot of videos lately, putting out information as to what he thinks going on with the whole swap theory. It's okay to disagree. I want to just put that out there and be very clear. It's okay to agree to disagree. And I don't agree with everything Richard Newton says, but I always appreciate hearing his opinion and getting his insights as to how he views this situation, right? So Larry Chang, and what he had brought up is that Larry Chang purchased shares, shortly before the share offering took place. And look at the price he bought them at. He's up, 100% on these shares that he acquired back in April. Let's see the date, April 9th, 2024. So overall, it shows that as a board member, he felt confident in purchasing shares prior to them issuing stock, right? Obviously, it's not guaranteed that it was already determined at that point, but you have to think at least the idea was floated. And I'm not gonna lie, part of me does think though, like why not do it sooner, right? When you look at the chart, if you zoom out a little bit, like, well, they filed for it, right? It takes about 10 days to get it approved, and I think they filed for it here, right? If it takes 10 days to get approved, right in this little jump, so they kind of knew there was a potential rally coming. And then the share offering was announced right here, and also it's pinned on my Twitter page, right? Like, whoop. So, oh, what the heck? It's not pinned anymore? I swear I pinned it. Let's see real quick. Here it is. It's in the highlights, but GameStop share offering summary, 933 million raised, 445 million shares issued, average sale price of 20.74. So you could see after the initial announcement, it didn't, like, it dropped off, right? And then it pretty much went sideways. And then yes, obviously Friday had a little drop off. I think that was like the final shares, or sorry, Thursday into Friday had a drop off. I think those were like the final shares being sold. And then after hours this previous Friday, we got the announcement that they completed the share offering. It's pretty remarkable. They were able to sell that many shares in that short period of time. And I'm not too sure, to be honest with you, off the top of my head, if they're able to issue shares in pre-market. But it seemed like the news itself just made the stock fall a lot that day, and already was, kind of dropping off after a big rally. Some traders were probably cycling out. But it seems, like this to me, generally speaking, that the stock held up pretty well considering they diluted by about 12, 13-ish%. And here's the white dotted line of the average sale price. So, you would think with this being the average price, most of them were probably sold in here, not as many down here, although it was completed on Friday. So definitely probably some. But again, this is why it's the average, and I just thought I'd throw it on there. But it only took them a week to raise 933 million in cash, and now they have 2 billion in cash, and that equates to $5.70 per share in cash at this given moment in time. But again, to be honest, part of me was like, why not have, maybe how come they didn't do it sooner? But also, when was the last time the stock was consistently higher than that price they sold them for, right? The approximate, like, what was it, $20.74 per share. You got to look back to last summer, so pretty much a year ago at this point, where they would have been able to issue shares for that price. And at points last summer it was even lower in early 2023. So really, that was kind of an initial thought I had, but really they would have had to do it in 2022 to get much more than they did now. And also, things evolved. And also, this is an interesting chart here, right? I'm zooming out. This is looks like a weekly chart, right? Yeah, so definitely an interesting weekly chart. Look at this candle. It's crazy. And looking at the monthly chart, still looking pretty good overall in terms of a general breakout. But those are just side notes. So, at the end of the day, I get why maybe some people are like, oh, why do they dilute? What's going on here? But I think they're preparing to make a move. And at some point or another, like, I want to keep it real with you guys. Like, they do have to make a move. They can't just, well, yes, right now they can just accumulate a lot of interest on their cash and their marketable securities. That's good for the short term. But long term, they do have to solve the problem of revenue declining. I think they've set themselves up where they're going to operate profitably on the bottom line. They can kind of move sideways or even with revenue slightly declining, right? Which, if Q1 is an indication of the year, it unfortunately does seem like year over year the revenue will decline. However, if net income is able to hold up and be net positive, that gives them the ability to be sustained and seek that new revenue opportunity. But eventually, some point or another, they do have to make a big move of some kind, right? And we see them doing the small stuff like CandyCon. I want to see more private label brands potentially. We also have the trading cards that are coming out. I just bought one. I just bought a Justin Jefferson PSA 9. He's a beast of a receiver. I thought it was a good price for 25 bucks. I think it could be worth more one day. And maybe getting back into the cards a little bit. Also bought some card smiths to unpack as well as football pack too. And I've messed with them in the past a little. Like I've shown this card previously. I got this Aaron Judge. I had more of these. See, I was reselling. I just put the dates. I bought them. Bought this right before the pandemic. Actually, crazy. A little over 4 years ago, and it's worth a decent amount now. The other ones I kind of bought and resold. Then here I got some card smith too, which I put them all in some card sleeves. I got some miscellaneous right here. So maybe I'll do an unpacking video or do it on stream when they come in. And I ordered yesterday and it was shipped out this morning, like first thing in the morning, and I ordered it last night. So that was nice to see. I really like, that GameStop's focusing on speed of delivery, because just with the way Amazon Prime has evolved, the reality of it is that's just the standard for today's shipping world, right? Like Amazon is kind of led that charge, and Walmart, Best Buy, and now GameStop, right, are all having to follow that trend, right? It's kind of similar to when all brokerages used to charge a fee. Robinhood just started taking so much market share. Literally within like a 1 or 2 week span, all of a sudden every broker was like, "Oh yeah, $0 commission for executing trades," right? Whereas previously it was like $7, $5, $10, depending on the brokerage. Same sort of thing here, right? It's obviously a different example, but in terms of shipping. And looking at volume here today, 103 million. I think that updates sometimes, because when I tweeted this final tweet, right? See 102.9, 103.1. I guess that's, off exchange being accounted for a little bit later. That's maybe part of it. But yeah, I don't know. Well, again, to be perfectly clear, if anyone who's new here, I'm always just sharing my perspective as to what's going on with GameStop. I'm never trying to tell you do this, do that. This is the best strategy. This is definitely what's going to happen. I'm just calling it like I see it, and just learning a lot more about markets in general, market mechanics, GameStop, and just the most that I can. And I think in a moment here, before we do get into like T+1 later on, one, Nvidia, crazy. It's actually nuts. There's up 7% today. People are like, oh, well, it is a big growth stock. But when you look at its market cap, a market cap this size is not supposed to be able to move 20% in 5 days. Like, that's just ludicrous to me. Like, it's just absolutely crazy in my eyes. And again, I get it. Like, it's way ahead, and AI is here to stay. I keep saying, like, the AI genie's out of the bottle. There's no putting it back. But it just seems like it's overextended at this point, and it has to keep reporting blowout quarters. The first quarter that's not a blowout quarter, or the first sign of weakness, I feel like we'll see a large pullback in Nvidia. But maybe that's a buying opportunity, right? That's for you to determine, and all about figuring out yourself as an investor, right? Like, I'm really a fan of that. And although I say I'm usually not a trader, I did actually put in a trade last week, a very small trade. I've very rarely placed a trade, mostly a buy and hold guy long term. On Friday, I sold a put for June 2021, because I saw the action around the call options, and also just I didn't see GameStop going significantly lower, and I sold it way out of the money, right? I sold a $12 put for June 2021. Nothing crazy, not a massive amount of premium, but I just figured I can collect a little premium, earn a little bit of interest on the underlying money market fund, because I do it through Fidelity. And then in the worst case scenario, am I really totally opposed to buying 100 GME shares at $12 a piece? Not necessarily. So I just figured it was a good opportunity to do that. Looking into selling options more, if I do dabble in options a little bit more, I'm thinking about getting back into it more, maybe doing some consistent like put selling. But the only thing is that when I get exercise, I don't want to be in a position where I feel like I have to sell or sell covered calls, because then I know with selling covered calls, you could get absolutely burned just with the nature of how GameStop is. You could miss on 2G run up, right? Like anyone who sold covered calls like in here, right? Even if you sold it here, like, oh yeah, this is great, you missed out on all this, right? If you're theoretically trading. But at the same time, if you're just cycling that strategy back and forth, you're kind of just moving in and out of that position. And that would be, if I do ultimately do that, to be perfectly clear, that's going to be separate from my GME long position that I just buy and hold. And, again, everyone's got to make their own decisions, go about things in their own way. And as I'm learning more about selling options, I just think it makes more and more sense in terms of collecting premium. But not saying I'm going to consistently do that. I just saw an opportunity, and I was like, all right, I'm going to dabble in it a little here. Although I did also sell a while back, right? And this is kind of like a long-term put sell. I sold a put for January 2025. I don't say the exact, because again, I don't want people to like follow what I do. Like, I never want people to just blindly be like, oh, Tetron did this. Like, this is a great play, I'm going to follow it. No, like, you should always make your own determination. But I basically sold a put far out of the money, for January 2025. I've been holding that for a while. My thought was like I want to keep it till long-term capital gains kicks in instead of short-term, because I had sold that in October of last year, and that extra premium I just put into GameStop shares, right? And then that money securing the put is like again in a money market account, so I can at least earn like 5% on that right now. It's just a little bonus, but again, just some more insight there. And then obviously, I think, and now we talk about Nvidia, like the craziness. I put up the meme. I don't know if you guys saw, like it's like basically giant holding up the stock market. I mean, that's pretty much what it is, right? When you look at the markets today, they started to dip, and isn't this the thing? This guy, whenever he's on the screen, it's like a bullish indicator. I remember that was like a Wall Street Bets thing or something a while back. But look at the S&P, right? The way it fell off and then came back. I mean, this isn't directly of Nvidia, but I think the Nasdaq, like the way it just hit a new all-time high today. You don't think Nvidia is having to do with this move right here, especially when you see some of the other like Magnificent 6, 7, whatever they call it these days, lagging a little bit. So we'll see what the next few months brings, because overall, when you look at the S&P 500 since the year started, right? If you just let's look at SPY to make it nice and easy. Look at year to date. It's just been pretty much up. Like we finally had a little bit of a dip throughout April and into early May, and then it just climbed right back to all-time highs. And it just feels like the forever bull market with all the money that's being pumped into the economy and just print, 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 Jerome Powell, brr, right? So we'll see what happens. Again, I'm not here to tell you what's going to happen. I'm just here to document the journey, kind of call it as I see it, and talk about things in real time. And just look at this daily chart. It's absolutely wild. But glad to see you, bro. Don, thanks for popping in. Appreciate being here. This guy is regarded. KK, thanks for being here. Howdy, Tetron. Michael Tucker, thanks for being here. Marantz pointed out the previous sale, and this one equals the entire buyback GameStop did in the past with pre-split. Patrick, that's a great point. Thanks for being here. They purchased average 20 and sale average 80. Good deal for GameStop pre-split prices. Yeah, no, definitely overall, Patrick, I think it's all right. I'm totally okay with it at this point in time. At first I'm a little skeptical, like what's going on here. But I think, they, one, want to be sustainable, and two, make some kind of move in some shape or form in the long term to really get revenue back on track to growing. Hello, Apes. No sell, no sell. No name. Thanks for being here. Patrick, that's just wrong. GameStop had over 200 million shares prior to 2020. They bought back over 150 million shares, which would be 600 million post-split. Comparison of stock versus poker, both great tools to learn to be in our life and great money. I'm John Lacey. Thanks for being here. 400 million shares bought back between 2010 and 2019, still adjusted. Sold 7 million shares since 2020. I'd have to check all those numbers. I don't have them all right in front of me at this exact time, but I always appreciate you guys conversing in the comments. And I'm John Lacey. Listen, I like playing poker, but it's more of a fun thing. I think stocks, you dabble with poker, you have some fun, right? But stocks, it's a way different thing. Definitely a way different game. Suppose when this does happen, what's a good exit/retention strategy for Jimmy shares? Not options, shares only. Michael, that's absolutely a fair question. I've long said now, previously, right? I was okay. Here's the theory of the MOAS, just immense amount of demand with a very limited amount of supply. And now what I've long been saying is, I think everyone's definition of what MOAS is different, and you have to define in which way you're going to personally define it. And having said that, I think you have to create your own strategy of what you want to be a certain price point where you want to make a certain exit, and what you believe may or may not happen, right? You really got to, I think, determine for yourself and just try and look at all the things on the table, right? And for me, I think at least at the end of the day, a couple shares I'm going to hold for the longest time physically possible, right? And you never truly know what's going to happen. I'll just say that. You never truly know what's going to happen today, tomorrow, the next day. I just think in the long term, so long as the company succeeds, whatever nonsense is going on beneath the surface will naturally bubble up, and boom. That's MOAS, and again, defined in your own shape or form. Meow Meow Capital in the house. Data Plays, thanks for being here. AKA Meow Meow Capital. Appreciate you popping in. Have to go way back. What's an exit plan? Exactly. No name. Exactly. No sell, no sell. But again, I totally respect that everyone's got to do what's best for them at the end of the day. And before we get into T+1 here, definitely one we'll talk about. So we got, the Pleaser Dow. Well, also quick side note, inflation, crazy. If this is accurate, right? I didn't check this, but it seems like it makes sense. McDonald's versus Taco Bell versus Chick-fil-A, the way the prices went up, it seems accurate. I remember end of 2019, I'm in early college and getting these meals and feeling like they were way cheaper around these prices that it's listed at. And then the mid 2024 price, look at these jumps. 10 McNuggets from $4.49 to $7.58. Medium French fries from $1.79 to $4.19. beefy five layer burrito from 169 to 369. It's crazy. I mean, especially I feel like McDonald's, you see more and more. I'm like, you might as well go somewhere where you're going to get something a little bit more decent for pretty much the same price, right? It used to be McDonald's was significantly less. And then, see, it does have the source Taco Bell website, it doesn't require location. This is the Los Angeles location, so that definitely skews the numbers because I'm sure Los Angeles is of the most expensive of McDonald's, so that is a fair point. These two, though, no specified numbers, so just some interesting information in regards to what's going on. And the average is 141%, 57%, 80%. And you just see it around you more and more. Just even eggs, I feel like, or by me, were like $2, like even just a few years ago. And now they're like 4, which sounds like, oh yeah, like that's nothing, right? But that's a 100% increase we're talking about here. And when that happens across the board, it just gets harder and harder for the average person. So, and especially I can tell you, like for other young individuals such as myself, there's a lot of people that aren't, you know, running to start their life and just not even thinking about potentially owning a home one day. Just, all right, I'm going to rent. And listen, again, everyone has to do what's best for them, but you just see like how it's getting harder and harder for people to get started. And I can just see it from a young person's perspective. Like, unless someone's like myself, and I'm not saying I'm perfect and I do everything great. Oh yeah, be just like me. Not saying that at all. I'm saying like someone like myself who's trying to be extremely frugal, save as much money as possible, invest as much money as possible, and just be the most economically efficient. Because I realize, what I'm fully out there in the real world, right? Like I'm still learning a lot as I go. It's only gonna get harder, right? As these trends continue, as we continue to print more currency. So it boggles my mind to me, people that don't invest, and like even people in my job that are like around my age or even a little bit older that don't even have like a 401k set up. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do it in the future. I'm like, you got to start now. Like it's not gonna get any easier, right? Like I get it though. You're trying to pay off your student loans. You're trying to do this. You're trying to do that. But you got to start investing, right? Some shape or form, even if it's just contributing to your 401k a little bit. I really, really think that's so important. And for me personally, when I do my 401k, I contribute 100% S&P. That's all I've done since I've started my job, and it's worked out well for me. The S&P's done very well the past few years, and I get the idea of being in different funds, but for me personally, with the 401k, 100% S&P 500. I'm okay with that quote risk tolerance, not having any bonds mixed in there, but that's just ultimately how I rock and roll with my 401k. And of course, talk to a financial advisor if you so choose to, or make your own determinations. Always do your research, but just some quick insight there. So, what you guys may want to talk about or may have seen, right? And we'll get to this in a second, the 4chan thing. So actually, you know what? We'll talk about this really quick, and then we'll get into the Pleaser DAO situation. We'll have to chat one more time though. I regularly memorize video facts. McDonald's is more of a CFA sandwich. Haha, easy decision. Yeah, no name. McDonald's is not for me. What's up with Wu-Ting tinfoil? I don't know a lot about it. Michael, we're going to get into that in a minute. I got you. We're all getting around Wu-Ting Divvy while it's back. I don't know about that. We'll see. We'll have to see. Gotta get the free match for the 401k. Exactly, dear streaming. Exactly. Like you gotta get the match. That absolutely helps. And the longer you're there, the more it vests. Obviously every company's specifics are different, but it helps. Every little bit helps, right? And especially being a younger individual, I understand the way it will snowball over the next several decades. So starting now versus starting when I'm 30, like there's a huge difference in terms of how the money will snowball. Why would you want to own a home right now when they're going to crash the house market in 2032? Invest your money in 2032. Damn, that's pretty far away. And wait, it's better than that even with the looming stock bubble pop coming. It's still a smart move. Austin, thank you for being here. No, I definitely appreciate, always hearing people's opinions. And yeah, I'm not saying I necessarily want to own a house right now. Definitely not running to do that, to clarify. But at some point or another, right, I definitely want to become a homeowner, but I'm totally okay with waiting a few years and doing some initial renting or whatever the case, right? So it's all about, I think what everyone wants in the long term a little bit too. So definitely not running to buy a home at this moment in time, especially in this higher interest rate environment. And it seems like at some point or another, the real estate market will crash, but it also seems like just with the endless money printing, is everything just going to be propped up forever, right? The forever bull market, so to speak. So just going to keep monitoring as it comes. And also like my personal wealth, right, will be a huge factor in that, but definitely not running and throwing right now. UBS theory is definitely some endgame shit. Hope it comes to fruition. Brian, we'll talk about this. 2031, 2032 crashing coming for sure. Hey, that's pretty far though. That's pretty far. I don't know if I want to wait that long and to worry about that. But if you take the match and play the withdrawal penalty, you're better off. Good point, dear SGME. So rate's too high and property values popped up. Rich know when to buy. That's true, Austin. You always got to follow the money. You got to follow what the wealthier individual's doing, and it usually gives you a great idea what's going on. But looking at, before we get to the pleaser Dow, let's look at the UBS tinfoil, right? So supposedly this comes out, right, where the open interest on all these different options, right, as can be seen by up 10% limits thanks to the at the money market offering. So ATM at the market offering, meaning it was not directly to some short seller or some institution that these shares were sold for a set price, right? Because that's what AMC did, and their stock got absolutely hammered, right? Previously, where they made a private deal to sell the shares, and then that just naturally, and it was a deal below current market price, so it would just bring the share price down lower, right? But they had to raise capital. It's not an ATM. So within it being an ATM, that means it was shares bought by individuals in the open market. And again, it happened in a very short period of time. But we know there's a lot of strange things that happen with swaps and options being sold and things of that nature. So so again, just to read this here, as can be seen by the up 10% limits thanks to ATM, our controlled shares are above 2/3 of total OI. So this team will likely carry out controlled demarcation before earnings dilution, so the Swiss team can exercise freely without dealing with SEC insider trading restrictions. Friendly deal to do an ATM offering had to be made for us to close the Huang position. Sorry, NDAs prevent me from revealing exact positions or giving more details. So, there's the theory that Bill Huang or Chagos was short GameStop. Credit Suisse taking a huge loss on that. Theory is they got tossed the bag, so to speak, right, of being short. Then Credit Suisse pretty much goes under, basically gets forced by the Swiss government to be acquired by UBS. UBS literally didn't really have a choice in the matter. It was kind of like, hey, it has to happen. This is too big to fail. So that would mean then theoretically UBS is now holding this short bag, right? So the thing though, a friend pointed out to me, and I think is very valid. Sorry, NDAs prevent me from really exact positions or giving more details, but they already gave all this information and they wouldn't go as far to give the exact details to that point. I don't know. At the same time, though, when you see what's going on with the $20 call option for January 20, January, oh my gosh, June 21st, like that seems odd. And then it's just like a whale that just keeps buying huge blocks worth, right? And then there was another call option today. Another friend told me about, it was like $11 call, I think, for like a couple weeks from now. I'm pretty sure it's a weekly, just a huge block trade on that. So could this have something to do with it? Maybe, but I don't know. I just feel so skeptical. Like we've seen so much BS come and go over these past few years. Like how can you just trust, like of all things, a 4chan post, right? So I'm extremely skeptical. If it's true, great. If a short seller's covering, theoretically, it creates a domino effect and could it put other short sellers under pressure? But I would think it's just best to take it with the utmost grain of salt. If it works out great, fantastic. I'm happy, but I don't know. I'm just very skeptical. And this is an interesting take on it. UBS may be the first short position to say uncle. And also people are saying, well, UBS, they didn't necessarily want to short GameStop or were short GameStop, but they kind of got the bag tossed over to them through swaps or whatever funky positions, right? And there are a lot of swaps set to expire. Not yet. It's mostly these next few days coming up, like going into the end of the week and then early next week. So with the rumors going around about UBS getting out of their short position, I wanted to think about what it would mean and how it would be possible and what effect it would have the rest of the short positions. We talk a lot about how when it goes down, there will be someone that takes a smaller hit first and the rest of the large short positions will be completely fucked. I think this is everyone. I think this is it, everyone. Again, grain of salt, cautiously optimistic. Here's how I think the deal goes down. GME agrees to private sale of 45 million shares of UBS at 20. See, that's the thing though. It's an ATM. GME raises close to $1 billion and UBS gets a large chunk of the position and agrees to purchase the rest of the shares via options exercised by June 21st. This move allows UBS to get out of a chunk up front, then lock the rest of the position as $20 call, passing the buck to the market makers to find the rest of the shares they need. But why might GME do this? From what I read, the UBS inherited this position, so they're not directly enemies to GME when it comes to the short battle. They have no beef with GME and GME has no beef with them. What GME does have an issue with is the market makers. If GME can cut a deal to let a neutral party out of their inherited debt and strike a massive blow to the market makers who then have to find the shares, I think this would blow the whole thing up. Or as DV said, you move, I move, you move. Maybe, right? But I get where this person's coming from. User slash Gibble. I love the Reddit usernames. They're so funny. Gibbles and Bits 160. And shout out to at FCW Purple. But I don't know. I don't think it's a private sale because it's an ATM, right? But I get the idea of where like there's some possibility of being connected. But again, I'm choosing to just ultimately be cautiously optimistic on it, right? So Now that we covered that, we'll get into the quote Wu-Tang tinfoil, as some would call it. But hit the chat one more time. Damn, popping off down here. Oh, we got to make sure we get all chats. We get everyone in here. Again, don't have my laptop, so I got to lock in on the phone. But let's see. Yes, UBS theory is definitely some endgame shit. Hope it comes to fruition. Me too, Ryan, but I don't know. Like I said, interest rates are too high and property values propped up. Rich known to buy, exactly. 401k match and Roth if qualify, and 529 for college, depending on state for kids. If have kids, then not a lot. That was a W-2 earner. I agree that the housing market crashes, but why would a rent go up until 2032? Look at the structure of the SPY and how it correlates to the market build up from 2008 to now. We're cheap rents, and I got more money in stocks and building a company to bring in more cash flow. Yeah, Austin, that's the number one thing. What you just said right there, cash flow. At the end of the day, if you're building cash flow in whatever shape or form, whether moving up in your career, building a business, collecting dividends on dividend stocks, right, or whatever the case, I think cash flow is key, because if you keep having the cash come in, you could keep acquiring additional assets and making additional moves in your future, right? So you got to find your way to build cash flow, and that's what I'm personally trying to do, right? And building Tetron is a form of cash flow, and I want to, one day ultimately just be able to make content. I think that'd be a great thing, whether it be sports content, investing content, whatever, right? Not, I don't want to ever be cringe, but I would much rather make content for a living than work a job. And I know that's a lot easier said than done, and I'm probably like a decade away from being able to do that, but just start talking about what I like, and I'll see where it takes me. I want to see Ryan Cohen buy a ton of Apple shares after the market crash. Coffee, donuts, and Homer. Thanks for being here. Yeah, I wouldn't be totally opposed to them using their investment policy to make a big purchase of some kind of a value stock that's deemed undervalued. Although I'm not exactly sure they'll do that. It's definitely to be seen what's going on with the investment policy. Maybe we'll get something in the upcoming report, although I'm thinking not, probably sometime after that, because if they raise this capital now, it's really not going to be reflected until Q2, which we'll get that report in September. So we'll see what comes of that. But I think, at some point or another, they are going to use that investment policy in some shape or form, but that's obviously to be seen, and we have some time until we see anything come of it, right? And I've seen the idea of Bitcoin thrown around, gold thrown around, and while I'm personally bullish on Bitcoin and I absolutely believe in it in the long term, I don't necessarily agree with the idea of GameStop owning Bitcoin, because I realize there's a lot of shareholders who would not be like fond of that idea. So if anything, I think they would have to use a very, very small portion of their cash reserves. So people that like the idea, okay, great. People that don't like it are like, okay, it's not a huge amount of the cash reserves. I can live with it, right? But again, I think overall, it's probably not the best move for them. And for me, I'll just accumulate Bitcoin on the side, outside of my investment in GameStop. I have 1K sitting in Robinhood. Should I leave it there carrying interest or go all in on GME? Andrew, thank you for being here, but that's up to you to decide, my friend. Personally, I would say get out of Robinhood. I think Robinhood, one, look at that, they screwed people in January 2021. Two, there's so many better brokers out there that are just so much more efficient. They can give you better customer service. I feel like getting in touch with Robinhood is difficult, and they're just not ideal. Although I haven't used them in a long time, so I can't say it for sure. So I would personally say get out of Robinhood. Maybe go to Fidelity, Schwab, whoever your choice is, of maybe another broker, and then make a determination from there. For sure, 10K contracts at a June 21st 20 call were sold today. I like the UBS theory, but this kind of goes against it. Yeah, dear SGME, like I like the idea. It just seems like too good to be true. And usually when it's too good to be true, unfortunately it is. And again, they'll put that information, but not put the specifics of the NDA. Like just kind of seems sus to me. Tetron, oh, let's see. Schiller PE inverted shows 2031 and 2032 will be the bottom. Buffett sitting on cash until after MOS. No name? That'd be epic. We'll see. Tetron T+1 has been implemented and tested all over the place. Cat is the big deal. Scott, thank you for being here. You think so? I mean, I'm going to talk about that in a second. I'm definitely curious to see, tomorrow will be an interesting day in the sense you have today's trade settling, the first T+1 settlement, and then Friday's trades are also settling tomorrow because it's the final T+2. So tomorrow's actually like a double settlement day. So we'll see. But I saw there's some stuff about exceptions. Maybe that plays a factor into it. But it definitely should help, right? It should help at least a little bit, I would imagine. Sources so sketchy. Info seems to match up. I guess we find out in June. Exactly right. Exactly. Like I see the correlation, and Richard Newton did a great job, breaking it down and saying how it could be possible, and just being, listen, this is how I see it. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, and that's why I respect how he goes about things. And it just genuinely seems like a good dude, so I always appreciate that. And we'll see. That's all we can say, right? We'll have to find out and see. By Robinhood, no. Andrew, I don't know about that. I mean, they did just invest in. Oh my gosh, Gotta breathe sometimes. Drink water. But they did just actually initiate a share buyback program, so that would probably be bullish for them. It's never bought in the first place. If CAD has teeth, it is a big deal. If the SEC will hold them to the task, and it's just another smoke and mirrors. Exactly, Coffee Donuts and Homer. I feel like there's been so many times certain rules were supposed to be put in place by the DTC or NSCC, and unfortunately, not much came of it. Right? Like I really wish it did, but unfortunately, it seems like most of the time that hasn't been the case. Andrew Robert is a sketchy broker. They are more happy to sell the shares on your behalf than it is costing them money. It's clearly stated in terms of service. Exactly, Scott. Yes, sir. Thank you very much for that point. Both 4chan and ATM are in the new Roaring Kitty memes. That this lends support, Michael. That's definitely a valid point. Will the CAD system take effect on May 31st? We'll do that to the market. 123888753. So it should be in place now because T+1 settlement is essentially the CAD system being put in place and just faster settlement time. So it should be effective pretty much right now. Get money around. Cat is being a big deal. Why a few sellers are really interested in it. Amazed if folks are still using Robinhood. Same, Coffee, same. I think it's just a simplicity. I guess that's why certain individuals use it, right? Or maybe just more so traders. But yeah, Cat is a big deal. That's why sellers are really interested in it. Scott, that is a good point because I did also see, you had some market makers and large firms lobbying against it, like, oh, this is bad. This is bad for the people, right? And when they're all saying that, it's kind of like, what's going on here, right? Scott, the theoretically say the not good revenue idea of 1K in Gmails after can't make that call for you. Exactly. The sun comes up tomorrow, then put it in Gmail. I hope the sun comes up tomorrow. All right, we gotta scroll up. I love you guys conversing though in the chat. I'm more of a crypto guy. Only stocks I have are AMC and GME. Andrew, that's fair. Listen, man, everyone's got their own cup of tea, but I will say be careful with AMC. Look at the amount of dilution they've done over the past several years. You might say, oh, well, GameStop just diluted, but this is the first time they've diluted since 2021. And look at how much endless dilution AMC has done. Meanwhile, the executives just continue to pad their pockets. And I was just showing before how, Larry Chang just bought shares in April prior to the share offering, right? So it just shows, and you don't really see insiders, generally speaking, for GameStop, with the exception, I think it was who was it? Mark Robinson sold a tiny amount of shares fairly recently. Besides that, Ryan Cohen's never sold a single share. We've seen Larry Chang buy on multiple occasions. We've seen Alan Adel buy a couple times. So kind of just shows you, for the long term. But before we get into T+1, saw this today, right? People posting about it. The once upon a time in a Shaloon, Wu-Tang Clan, one copy exists, owned by Pleaser, previously owned by the U.S. Department of Justice, and Martin Shkreli, that scumbag with the buying the company, and what is it? He was basically just bought a pharmaceutical company and just jacked up the price of drugs and was like, "Yeah, more money, right?" And I love I don't know if anyone's ever seen that clip of Shane Gillis just roasting him. He's like, "That was pretty shitty." Like he just like roast him to his face. And that's what comedians do. And shout out to Market Watch Sucks Donkey Dong. If you guys aren't sure why that's K_N's name, the pinned post on their profile on Twitter, some saw the Sun and Panic as a chance for meme stocks to individuate and give GameStop a new edge. And one, this account puts out great information. I don't know them personally or anything like that, but I just feel like they're always very factual in how they go about things and just very straight to the point. No fluff, no BS, or anything like that. So I really appreciate this person's opinions. But they changed their name, and that's how I first found out about them when they did this. They changed their name to Market Watch Sucks Donkey Dong because they featured this tweet like live in the article. So when this person like updated their name, right? They updated their name, and it automatically updated in the article. So it was on Market Watch, and the article updated the show Market Watch Sucks Donkey Dong. It said, Mama, I made it. Best case scenario is where GME and AMC decouple. They try and shake GME holders while the rest of the market falls. Still kind of rings true to this day, right? But, so let's go back here. Yes, this is real. It uses Plaid to connect the brokerage to see if you hold GameStop shares. And I guess there's some special offer just for GameStop shareholders. While this isn't a dividend or anything coming directly for GameStop, I'll wait for an official announcement. I said, absolutely agree. Although I will say I'm excited to see when and what the announcement is. Yeah, it's super interesting in general, and I'll be watching to see what they do with it. But with the thought in the front of my mind that this might not have anything to do with GameStop as a company, it might just be Pleaser DAO's way of getting more engagement. And, very possible, and we'll wait for an announcement from GameStop. If it is truly involving GameStop, we'll hear from them, and that's just the facts that matter. So, and you might say, okay, well, how is this connected to GameStop? When you look at the Java code, right, you break it down on the website, and that's where that quote retweet, that original tweet, if you look at it, like the person did a video like going through it, and you could see like GameStop Corporation, ordinary shares, Class A GME, GameStop Corporation, ordinary shares, Class A GME. Excuse me. And it says, we will text you in, goodbye. So you could see the code that in verified holder, right? You could see code that would reflect something that makes it look like it has to do something with GameStop. But again, as Market Watchdog Doggy Dong points out, we don't know for sure until GameStop says it. And I think that's something we've learned over these past several years. Until GameStop, it's officially on their website and they themselves say it, you don't actually know, right? So that's why I think it's best to take it with a grain of salt. And then if you're not familiar, like where the speculation comes with this, when Pleaser DAO basically bought this album, and the idea is they're going to release it as an NFT because it is just a one of one, and no one's ever heard it. There's a certain character back here, right, in a black sweatshirt, and the tinfoil is that Ryan Cohen, in another image, on his Twitter, was wearing that same black sweatshirt, and this individual clearly didn't want to reveal themselves, and that's why they were backwards. But again, that's strictly speculation there, so you don't know for sure. But that's the latest on that. Again, we'll see if anything drops on that in GameStop's earnings report. I think it would be cool, but also, we don't know. We don't know. So you got to take it with a grain of salt. That's just the reality of the matter. And as someone who's followed this company for a long time and seen a lot of ideas come and go, I think the best thing you can learn is that you don't know until you know, if that makes sense. So that's how I always approach everything, very cautiously, optimistically. And again, going back to the 4chan leak or whatever you want to call it, there's been a lot of situations like that in the past. Like, oh, look at this. Oh, look at that. Oh, this definitely means this, right? And nothing's come to fruition. So we'll find out though. We'll have to find out with time. Let's see. Coffee with the war of time with short sellers. It's like Masada or Carthage, they have to keep paying, and if I remove my GP from the Loki pool, it makes it that much more difficult for the shorting hedge fund. So all these years and finally sold in the last pump for a good profit. That's a saloon. Listen, Andrew, I'm happy for anyone, to be perfectly clear. Like, I'm always happy for anyone that makes money. If you want to trade GameStop, I don't think that's the best approach personally, but I can't fault you for it, right? Everyone's going to take their own approach. Everyone can go about things in the way they want to, and like I always totally respect that. And I'm just happy in general for anyone that makes money in the market. Ryan Cohen most recently like tweets. All right, let's check it out. No name. Let's see. I didn't even see he recently did anything. Why is nothing cooperating? Sir Ryan Cohen. Have you guys ever heard of him? Let's see. I heard X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, is removing the like soon. Oh. Happy birthday, Pulte. He did like that. Interesting. And then I saw this, we talked about their great experience at GameStop. I think he actually replied to it, did he? Great video. Please send the store location. I would like to thank him for his hard work. Ryan at store number whatever. There's a praise for being a model employee. Imagine people going to that store now like, Ryan, or imagine Ryan getting a call from Ryan, right? Crazy. But, personally, I choose to mute Pulte. I have my reasons. I'm not going to get into it right now. No comment. No comment on Pulte. We'll put it that way. But I'm not sure if you're referencing something else. But if y'all looking for a stock to put your pennies into, you should look at BioHarvest Sciences. It's an OTC penny stock, but their tech is dope. Going to save acquiring company hella money. Hey, Austin, listen. That's speculative play, but not for me. I don't really mess with penny stocks. Putting shares in DRS for multi-decades. Other transfers, the easiest to park money in DRS accounts for the long haul. Scott, DRS has more than just book. There are caveats to keep the shares from being easily borrowed in DRS. Yeah, no, it seems like book versus plan. Definitely was a debate. There was something about not taking a dividend. If you did, then it's fair game to loan out of DRS. Interesting. Wu-Tang also in the Roaring Kitty memes. More support. Michael, another great point. Yeah, I still have to watch them backwards. I saw, shout out to, what's his name? Roaring Pika. I'm sure you guys have seen him on here. He's just a meme legend. Like, he's just an OG meme legend. I love this guy. Like, this is his most, tweet. Like, he put, what a grind, right? Putting all of them backwards. And then I saw, a couple other accounts. See, look at this. How can you not love this? Like, just such good memes. The 2021 Wu-Tang Tinfoil Army be like, we were right. And then, yeah, so this is what I was saying before about the black sweatshirt, right? It looks very similar if we're going hardcore tinfoil. You look at that, generally, just like what it looks like. looking at it here, you see these lines, right, by the shoulders. I know I'm going hardcore tinfoil here. I usually don't like to do that, but that's what it looks like, right? So maybe that's all I'm saying. Maybe, like, again, take it with the utmost grain of salt. Andrew, I don't know about the AMC because Adam Enron is a terrible CEO. GME seems cool because the staff and board have the same incentive that I have to hold the shares and they'll pay dividends. Exactly. I think, Scott, one day, they could do dividends. There's speculation. Are they going to do dividends? They're going to buy back shares. But I think ultimately they got to get revenue back on track and subsequently make net income rise along with it before they explore either of those ideas, right? So time will tell. Time will tell. First Cove, I know Adam always screws investors. Yeah, Andrew. It's unfortunate, but it's true. Why trade GameStop? Slammed on the ATM shelf, boosted on a random meme tweet, went to 80 overnight. Seems wild to just a trade. Exactly, Patrick. Exactly. That's why I personally am not going to trade in and out of it. Again, though, everyone's got their own cup of tea. That's just the way she goes. So I sold pennies in I said pennies. I'm in GME right now, but if I got $5, $5 is $5. I guess that's fair, Austin. That's fair. But, I don't know. I just, when I first started messing with stocks and learning about markets, I tried to oh, this is going to be a big penny stock. We're going to get a big breakout on it. And it just wasn't for me. And I just learned how suspicious things could go on with it, especially being in the pink sheets. And, you look at Wolf of Wall Street, it's like 50% commission. No way. That's crazy. I mean, obviously things have changed a little bit since the whole Wolf of Wall Street story because it is, based on a true story. But still, there's just certain aspects of penny stocks that are just not for me. But listen, I don't follow you. If you want to be in it, I wish you the best of luck. Cash system is active now, but hedge funds have the deadline of reporting until May 31st. Have I got that right? Price spike and ATM are wild. We're all diluted a small percentage and got $1 billion a week. Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of BS. Exactly. So on that note, though, let's go to the source itself, the DTCC, talking about the road to US T+1 settlement. And this was put out literally a whole year ago, right? And here we are today where it's just being implemented. And Schwab had a little decent summary of some of the changes taking place, so we'll go through that as well. The SEC adopted the rule to shorten the settlement cycle to T+1 effective May 28, 2024 for all U.S. securities transactions that settle through the DTC. Canada has adopted a parallel rule covering their markets. However, given the 3-day Memorial Day holiday in the U.S., Canadian securities will begin trading using a T+1 settlement on May 27th. So yesterday, today is the first day of that taking place. One day before U.S. securities. One pegs will this have on the post-trade processing of security transitions? Michelle Hillary, DTCC General Manager of Equity Clearing and DTC Settlement Service, and David Kirby, blah, blah, basically did a little webinar talking about it. Highlights from discussion are summarized below. Increased global scope. With a shortened settlement cycle, allocation and confirmation must happen on the trade date, impacting all institutional trades that clear and settle through DTCC's various services. The new guideline of 7 p.m. for allocations and 9 p.m. Eastern cutoff for straight through processing of affirmations on trade dates puts added pressure on global investors to ensure the proper processes are in place. Firms, investment managers, broker dealers, custodians will need to consider their target operating model. Asia now has 1 day to reconcile, but after the move, that will reduce it to as little as 2 hours depending on the market. So kind of ideally cuts out some of the shenanigans that might go on internationally, right? Because shout out to, I'm sure you guys have seen him also on X, Sad But Truthful. He digs really, really deep in the data, and he really tried to explain it to me once, but honestly, so much of it went over my head, which just shows me I have so much to learn. And he did kind of touch on that when I talked to him, where he's like, a lot of this, it's technically not allowed in the US, but when you do it through this, and then it's in a different, foreign country, then some of it could go on, right? Because technically it's not in the US. So just a little bit there. And then DTCC's various services, an example would be the NSCC, National Securities Clearing Corporation, which operates the ACAD system. And the ACAD system is how everything is in the name of Seed & Co. And the ACAD system allows them to easily move it back and forth. So when you're going from Fidelity or Schwab or whoever your broker is to your computer share account, right? If you choose to DRS your shares, then in doing that, you're doing a non-ACAD transfer because you're going out of the broker to computer share. However, if you have plan, right, because you have a partial share, and computer share does have an ACAT control number, so the only way to be pure DRS, right, is to make sure you only have book shares. And again, make your own decisions, but just some insight there. An example of, what the DTCC's various services are. That's just one example. NSCC and NSCC operates the ACAT system, right? And the ACAT system allows, like if you're going from Fidelity to Schwab, you can quickly move like this, right, between brokers as long as the receiving firm requests it and the other firm puts it through. And if you're using Schwab and Fidelity, right, they're two of the faster brokers because of their size and scale. So you can do an ACAT transfer like that. And not to say that Fidelity goes too slow on DRS transfers. I think they do it in a decent amount of time, but they do it differently in the form of a non-ACAT transfer. So higher costs due to delays. Unlike the CSDR regime, there will be, one second. Ouch. Oh yeah, also guys, quick side note, I sprained my ankle over the weekend. I hopped in like a pickup football game, and literally the first play, I was like, oh, I'm about to go full Justin Jefferson mode. I went down. I rolled my ankle, and it hurts so much. It's so annoying. I've been icing it a ton, but it should be all right. I don't think there's a break or anything like that. It feels a little better than yesterday, but that was not fun. That was not fun, and that's why I just sit out there. But anyways, unlike the CSDR regime, there will be no regulatory penalties in place if trades are not affirmed on T and do not settle on T+1. However, missing the affirmation cutoff of 9 p.m. will trigger a semi-automated or even manual processes of the broker dealers and custodians and decrease straight-through processing STP. The client STP, as well as the increased cost per transaction outside of the affirmation process, will contribute to the overall impact and the inefficient processes. Preparedness considerations. The move to T+1 will require system, operational, and behavioral changes, hence why they gave everyone a 1-year heads up on this. And there was some time for certain institutions to lobby, oh, this is bad, don't do this, it's not good for the people, right? 1Q survey with the value exchange showed that only 41% of industry participants have yet to start looking at T+1, and on the buy side, the number climbs to 61%. By removing a full day from the settlement cycle, counterparty preparedness may be an in-scope firm's single biggest risk. Firms are only as strong as their weakest counterparty. If your counterparty is not prepared, it will hamper your ability to settle a T+1 environment. Counterparty, you start to think about swaps, and that's a whole conversation itself, but just for some perspective there. Health assessment. DTCC performed a T+1 quote health assessment to examine all systems, their interconnectedness, and how to connect both upstream and downstream, both now and in the compressed time frame. The extensive holistic review yielded opportunities for areas of investment to improve, and firms are encouraged to do the same. Extensive exercises evaluated every part of DTCC's process and how a break would impact markets. Hillary commented that firms testing should ideally include tests that intentionally run through scenarios where there are breaks in the system to test recoverability and resiliency. T+1 testing timeline. DTCC is providing a T+1 testing environment for 9 months prior to the implementation, beginning on August 14th. So, that's been some time since that occurred. Test cycles will run bi-weekly, allowing firms to test formally through scripted testing or informally for ad hoc scenarios. Repeating cycle allows retesting of scenarios to ensure all situations can be addressed. Testing forums are available for guide firms through the testing process. Automation is key. DTCC's institutional trade processing includes to remove friction in the post-trade space. Hence some of these things, straight things that go on with locates and whatnot. And you always hear about options. You have T+2 to sell. Now it's going to be T+1. Initiatives include enhancing clients' use of ITP products and creating more streamlined automated processes, including CTM's match to instruct, M2I workflow, and alert key enablers to achieving T+1 settlement. DTC also offers services to help clients assess, including impact assessments ahead of T+1. So basically just saying, we're giving you time, figure out, make it happen. It's going to require more efficiency. And this video, is pretty informative. I watched a little bit of it. It's a little dry, it's a little boring, right? But it does give insight as to what's going on. So, Mr. Doodle, thanks for being here. Appreciate you popping in. Ryan Cohen on the board will pay us 2 ways. 1 with cash dividends and 2 with share buybacks. Those are the long-term plans. Scott, I think you're right. I think we got some more time before we get there, but ultimately I think, one or the other or both is coming at some point or the other. The old heads move slow as hell to T+1, which took like 2 years. True. But they can make money instantly through billing. Exactly, Austin. That is true. You guys think MOAS could start over the weekend? 123-88-753. Again, thanks for being here. I mean, it's always certainly possible, right? The wise words of the old times, or I don't know if the best way to say it. The prophecy, right? The prophecy once said, the MOAS is not today, it's tomorrow. And then the next day comes, it's not today, tomorrow. The weekend passes, oh, you didn't know it's tomorrow? Right? And that was just kind of a joke because it seemed like, maybe there were some people trying to make up like false dates and whatnot. So it just kind of became a meme like, oh yeah, MOAS is not today, it's tomorrow. It's always tomorrow. So again, it all depends how you define it, what you see as MOAS. To me, it's just immense demand with very limited amount of supply, lots of trading halts. Probably, unfortunately, market brokers turning things off again, maybe even turning off the sell button, right? That would be truly unprecedented, right? And people look and say, and people not like paying attention this closely and just looking at things from afar will say, how did this happen again? I thought this was done after January 2021. How could we be here again? How could this possibly be? We'll find out, right? We'll have to find out. So, how will T+1 affect you and your investments? A few key things to know. What's driving shorter settlement cycles, faster technology, and investor preference mainly. Okay. What does T+1 mean for investors? Generally, very little. Sure. Because many brokerage firms today, including Schwab, require cash or adequate margin prior to entering any securities order in a client's account for efficient settlement. So it's a lot to do with the plumbing of the markets, right? That's changing, not necessarily for the average person just buying a stock in some shape or form. Although, for settlement, like if I buy a stock today, I sell it tomorrow, it would clear the following day, whereas previously it would clear Friday in that example, right? So in that sense, it affects investors, but to me, that's a trader. There's traders and there's investors. Traders move in and out, investors just buy and hold, generally speaking. So I think generally, looking at everyone as a whole out there, it's not impacting the average investor. It's more so impacting the plumbing of the markets. So, and unlike decades ago, investors typically hold their securities in their accounts electronically, and hence the DTC and what they do and what Seed & Co is. So relatively few people have to rush paper certificates to their brokerage offices by the settlement deadline. However, it's worth noting that for some investors, faster security settlement could influence future trading, portfolio, and tax strategies. See below. Which securities can be affected by T+1? According to the Financial Institution Regulatory Authority, the FINRA, stocks, bonds, exchange-traded ETFs, or exchange-traded funds, which are ETFs, certain mutual funds, municipal securities, real estate investment trusts, which are REITs, and master limited partnerships, MLPs, trade on the U.S. exchanges will move from T+2 to T+1 as of May 28th. That is today. And what you notice, and the government bonds settlement is already T+1. And also notice in here, there's nothing about options. Options are already T+1 settlement. How will T+1 settlement actually work? For example, let's say you execute a securities trade on Monday after May 28, 2024. Transaction must be settled on the next business day, which could be Tuesday if the markets are open. If you were to successfully trade on a Friday, your settlement date would be the following Monday, as long as this market isn't a market holiday. Note, Mexico and Canada are also moving to T+1 settlement on May 27th. U.S. markets reopen on May 28th because of Memorial Day. How could T+1 influence certain investment decisions? Some investors will want to make sure they own the shares by specific dates to participate in proxy votes or annual meetings. In these cases, shorter settlement cycles can help the investor. Very, very specific example, not going to occur too much, but could T+1 affect margin interest? In certain cases, for example, margin account investors who place a trade but need to sell money market funds to cover their purchase need to make sure those money market funds proceeds are available before or on the same day as settlement to avoid a margin interest charge. And again, I don't touch margin. Anyone that knows me knows I want nothing to do with margin. That's not for me. It's a very dangerous game with margin. You're messing with money you don't have. So be very, very careful if you're messing with margin in any shape or form. That means for margin account trades in bonds, equities, or other securities, money market funds will need to be sold by 4 p.m. Eastern. And again, if you are messing with margin, just remember, margin interest charge, especially in a higher interest environment, that's going to be much higher than it was just a couple of years ago for the average person. Are there potential tax issues? Because of T+1, you'll have half the time to correct any cost basis decisions you made in a trade. Once settlement is complete, your cost basis, your total initial investment, any commission or fees paid, doesn't happen too much these days, and decisions of how you'll collect dividends and distributions set for tax purposes. After T+1 goes into effect, any cost-based adjustments will have to be made within 1 business day of the trade, not 2. But again, that doesn't have too much. Bottom line, today, T+1 will rise for U.S. investors, trimming the settlement cycles for securities trades from 2 days to 1. For some investors, 1 day settlement cycles may mean greater convenience. For others, T+1 may require closer attention to how shorter settlement times could affect one's investment, trading, or tax decisions. To learn more about strategies that could affect your individual decision, consider reaching out to a qualified advisor. Always reach out to an advisor if you want some specific information. But overall, to me, it's really the plumbing of the markets. That's what's changing in the underlying. And just makes, some shady things that go on a lot harder to execute. You got to act a lot quicker if you want to act shady, right? And I'll leave that up to you to determine who's doing what and how they're going about it. But it definitely makes it more challenging for anyone trying to do anything fishy, right? Or any potential bad actors in the financial industry in any shape or form. But we'll see. We'll see. And, the swaps are supposedly about to expire starting the end of this week and next week and a little bit the following. And the size of them, it's hard to say. Looking at these charts, though, year to date, interesting. These are dailies, definitely spicy. Look at the 5 year, you get a monthly chart, also spicy. So we'll see. A lot could change with this candle. We still got 3 trading days left in the week. So that will determine how this candle goes, and then we'll be in June before we know it, which is just crazy. Absolute craziness. It's been what? Since January 2021, 22, 23, 24, 3.5 years since January 2021. Quite remarkable. And this is definitely the most volume we've seen since 2021. Like, no matter what happens with the month, right? Even if there's zero volume the next 3 days, which is literally impossible, it's still going to be the most volume we've seen for GameStop since March 2021. And there's going to be people who say, "Oh, this is because Roaring Kitty returned. Oh my God, he pumped his stock." And it's like people don't realize the savings rate now versus in January 2021. There's an immense difference, and it's just an entirely different situation. There's no way all this volume was just suddenly retail all getting in. Yes, sure, there was traders. Yes, there was some FOMO. Yes, there's some of it being retail volume, right? But there's lots of people like myself who've just been buying this whole way, just consistently dollar cost averaging their long position. And then on top of it, there's just not as many people with accessible income like there was at that point in time. So, with all that being said, simply don't think this was retail. I think this was largely institutions, and why institutions are getting in now and making moves of some like, and you even see like these 13F filings coming out where these like firms are just massively increasing their position, and it's like, why now? But again, all just food for thought. Always make your own determinations. Proceed with optimistic caution when it comes to GameStop and any potential hype, any potential theories. Always think for yourself. And yeah, we'll hit the chat real quick and wrap it up here for today. I appreciate you guys being here with me. Welcome to us. We're here for compound interest. Austin, yeah, hey, it's all about the long term. Most likely ignite January 21st, right? Michael, I don't know. I don't know about that. We'll have to see. That word most probably pisses off Ryan Cohen. People talking about most like it's Jimmy's just a trade. Exactly, Austin. Exactly. That's why I say to me now, as I've evolved and grown as a person, you define MOAS how you want to define it, what you believe it is. For me, it's just immense amount of demand with a limited lot of supply. That's how I personally define it. Noah, is there a reason why you're so cautious in expressing the MOAS narrative in general? I get that you're focused on the long-term play, but the majority do not initially invest for that. Let's be honest too. Other concept of MOAS, there is no GME today. Ryan, that's absolutely a fair point. Part of it is too, I don't ever want someone to go back one day and be like, "Oh, look, Tetron said this and it didn't happen. Like, let's sue him," right? I'll be honest, that's part of it, right? But also, I want to just keep like a overall like general approach, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't ever want to annoy the wrong person either, put it to you that way, type of thing. Where at the same time, though, I'm not, this massive platform where there's all these eyeballs on me, but I like to just be cautious in what I do, and that's anyone that knows me in real life too. I'm just a very cautious person, and before I make any move in general or say things, like I try to really like articulate like how I want to go about it. That's kind of a little insight on me. But Bank exploded in Ohio, NAMAC, yeah, that was crazy, man. That is actually sad. I I see people make jokes about it. There's people in there. Like, there's people in there. Like, I don't know how the fuck that happened. That's craziness. That's craziness, right? But yeah, crazy. I'll never sell is my favorite game ever. Haha. Nate Senior, thanks for being here. Hey, everyone's got on their own journey. Real story, 4 years ago, 99.5% of traders had no idea what T+2 settlement, etc. meant. No, Patrick, that's absolutely a valid point. And how I got involved in GameStop is I made a huge trade in the beginning and I got really lucky. And then from there, I was okay. Like, I don't want to trade in the long term. And I've really evolved as a person. That's definitely for sure. 396 call contracts traded today, 205K put contracts. Crazy, just crazy amounts of option volume, and that's definitely, impacting the price in terms of market makers having to hedge against those positions on either side going into the money, right? So it goes both ways. But fair point, dude. Totally understandable. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, it's like, like I said, you never know out there. You never know who's watching, who's gonna try and spin what you say in what way. I mean, we already had that clown Dan Olson try and do that to me, right? In his video, like, he clips what I say like 30 seconds it out of context. He clips me saying like, "You shouldn't listen to me." And the point I was trying to make is, you should do your research, due diligence, right? You should always never blindly trust me or anyone on the internet ever. You should always do your research, due diligence, and make your own determinations. But on that note, thank you guys for being here. Oh, what's with the Oilers pulling the goalie and throwing the game twice in a row? Ryan, dude, I don't know, man. The Oilers are blowing it. They outplayed them, I swear, in both of those games for like majority of the game, and they just can't finish, man. I don't know. After seeing those, I'm like, I don't know if they could pull it off, right? Draisaitl, McDavid, the top guys, they look unreal, man. But I don't know. Stuart Skinner is looking shaky, and what's the backup name? I'm not even sure. Campbell's in the AHL. Pickard, right? I don't know if he's the guy either. And any team that wins the Stanley Cup, they almost always have a hot goalie, right? And Ottinger looks good, especially playing against those guys. So, yeah, I think whoever wins that series, though, I want to win the Cup. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. I just do not want the Rangers to win. No Rangers. I'm going to watch tonight, but no Rangers. I do not want them to win. I can't believe they won 2 games in a row. It's crazy. Yeah, Dan Olsen sucks, man. I agree. He's a clown. I don't like to talk about people, but listen, when you come after me first, like, I'll just call it how it is, But yeah, he's a bozo. Great stream. Thanks all. Thanks, Tetron. Go GameStop. Thanks, Tetron. Thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys being here. Like I said, I'm always just trying to call it how I see it. Never trying to say, oh, do this, do that. This is what it's going to be. I'm just documenting in real time my journey as a GameStop investor. So thanks so much. Appreciate you guys being here. Have a great night.